Hey, Alpha fam, welcome back to another episode of Alpha Commission. Today on Alpha Commission, we're just going to do a 5 minute market update on the stocks and, of course, crypto, just to see where we are at and to see if we can help orient you to a new and lovely week. Of course, we had the quadruple witching on Friday and, of course, the long holiday weekend, which perhaps allowed for some shenanigans on the markets during the weekend with the 24-hour exchanges. So, if we take a look at the professional exchanges, these CME futures, then of course we can see that there is no gap. So what happened was, of course, on Bitcoin, the 24-hour exchanges just dipped super low to 17,500, taking advantage of that low liquidity on the weekends, and then it shot back up just as I suggested to meet the CME price. And so there's no extra gap here. It was just some type of weekend shenanigans, and now we get to see what the real price action has in store for us. Of course, we do have a CME gap up here around 27 to approximately $29,000, another little one around here in that $34,000 area. But those are neither here nor there. If we do look at the professional exchanges now that they're reopened this lovely Tuesday, we can see that, well, I don't know where my indicators are. There we go. Okay. So we can see that move has not completed on CME. We did attempt to front run that on the 24-hour exchanges, but where if we go over here to, for example, Coinbase, etc., you can see that the move is completed. It's actually rounding down, and so there may be, some type of contraction and volatility. There may be, some type of corrective move that's being put on. And since our, major downtrend is obviously pointing towards hell, then this would suggest that we do get a little bit of relief, which we have seen to the tune of approximately 20% so far. But again, going back to the professional exchanges, we're just not quite there yet, right? You can see we're getting rejected again by the 5 EMA, which is not a good look. We want, to at least to be being rejected by the 9 EMA so that we have some chance of popping up and seeing the 20, which would give us that nice, that nice trade, if not perhaps even a squeeze play to the upside to these upper levels. But we're just not seeing it yet. If we look at the RSI, while we do have a cross, it looks like it's about to happen. So, it is considering it. The demarcation is still to the downside. And if this proves to be a fake out, with one more drive down, then I can't say that, you weren't warned because, of course, the move isn't fully complete on the professional exchanges. Even if it did complete on the 24-hour exchanges, there is still a little room to perhaps test the bottom of this range or something, just go sideways. You can see this kind of chop, right? Before we get into those perhaps juicier setups for some type of bullishness to be put on the charts, perhaps later this week, okay? And a lot, of course, will depend on what stocks do. So let's just briefly go through stocks. And if we can go ahead and look at the NAS 100, of course, this is my favorite. We do see that, let's go over here. We do see that the NAS 100 has a support which we might come down to meet, or we might try to, recapture this higher level at 11,792-ish. But if we do end up falling, then hopefully we don't break below 11,080 because that could be a bit of a fall lower. We're getting into these kind of bad areas where there could be a capitulation, right? So there is potentially more to the downside. But as far as today, we're just in the middle of the chart. If we look at the QQQ, we can see that the pre-market is bullish, and so that would suggest perhaps that we will make an attempt on this upper level, and that could give a little bit more thrust to Bitcoin and crypto. But going over to the S&P, same situation, pretty much just hanging out in this middle zone here. I mean, I guess I could make that a resistance. It's a bit choppy over here, but just for visualizing, you can see we're just in the middle of the range, and probably due to the choppiness over here, well, we do have a little bit of a support right there. Yeah, we do have a little bit of a support. So maybe we hang on to that and make an attempt higher, but if not, we can perhaps fall down here, and that could perhaps give us some support. We really don't want to be getting into these lower levels. Same story on most of these indices. There is a long way to fall. There is a big capitulation hanging over our head like a knife if we do break down. And if we do pop up, most likely it's just going to be a lower high. So that capitulation probably will come eventually. And whether it's, this level here to 3250-ish, or whether it's all the way down to like 2700 or some change, or wherever, one of these levels around 3000, 3200 maybe, something like this. I don't know. It's getting pretty treacherous, okay, guys? Like, we still have a lot of ways that we could perhaps fall down, but that's not for this week to think about. We can pretty much just look for this level to act as a little bit of support and perhaps get a little bit of a relief rally if we can perhaps go to try to capture these gaps that we have on the chart up here, which I'll just mark in purple so that we can visualize it more easily. And of course, same story with the other indices. So don't need to really go into too much detail here. Just kind of middling around, trying to find support above us, looking a little bit to open up bullish, which is a good thing, right? Dow, same story. Let's go ahead and take a look at the VIX. Volatility is really high, okay? So that's not helping us, but it's not really shooting up or anything, so it's not being oppressive. Hopefully, it just dips down a little bit, and that could give a little bit of ease to trading this week. But if we do end up pushing back above that 30 zone, which I consider just to be hellish for trading, then that wouldn't be good. But right now it is appearing neutral. The DXY, the US dollar, is kind of bouncing off support, and so that would suggest it might want to go bullish, but perhaps today it's just going to be settling into some type of mid-low here before pushing on. So that, again, that's like, it's not bullish, but it's not bearish either. It's just kind of neutral for our relative trading conditions. So just keep an eye on those. If they pop up, the VIX or the DXY, it could make trading a bit harder. Back to Bitcoin, of course. We do have our, let's see, where's my chart? There we go. Here's the levels that I made for you last week, or was it early in the weekend, where we are bouncing off that resistance area I was pointing out, but we do have a stretch goal perhaps to 22,000-ish, should we put in that chop sideways, and then eventually get ahead of some of these EMAs, get on top of that 9 EMA, then perhaps if we can get on top of when we get on top of this 5 EMA, and then if we get on top of the 9 EMA and hold 23,000, let's just call it thereabouts, then perhaps we can work our way to this 50 EMA on the daily. And our real kind of goal would be to get up above that to 24,000 to 25,000 area. If we could do that, then perhaps we could even put in some type of macro reversal. That would be pretty ambitious. So most likely we're just going to get a higher low, but we do have that stretch goal area in mind because we do have that CME gap there. And if we retest this kind of golden pocket on the macro here, that wouldn't be too unreasonable considering how far away we are from our EMAs. even if we do end up retesting the lows or perhaps even thrusting downward to new lows as this market deteriorates. There is the potential that the bottom is in, so I don't want you to be biased one way or another. We're just going to, take a look and see what the charts are telling us and make sure that we understand what's going on in the world and the Fed and all the crazy news. Of course, with all of the things coming up in the Fed, we've got, of course, home sales coming up today that we're going to find out. A bunch of these cities, Federal Reserve presidents are going to be talking, so we can find out to see if they're going to do some tightening that may, put a little pressure on the market if these information is bad. On Wednesday, of course, Jerome Powell is going to talk and testify to Congress, so he could very easily put his foot in his mouth or say something that upsets the market. So Wednesday is going to be pretty treacherous, but could be a turnaround day if there is some optimism that comes out of that. And then Thursday, we are going to get that, the accounts deficit, the manufacturing PMI. Jerome Powell is going to testify again, I believe to a different committee. Yep, to a different committee in Congress. And then on Friday, we're going to get some 5-year inflation expectations. And so, guys, this week can be treacherous. We still have the potential for more capitulation. I'm trying to warn you guys about not taking hodling positions yet. And don't be too attracted to any one particular price. The key point is just to get into a region where we're starting to get healthy, right? We're starting to get healthy. You've got months and months of bullishness kind of stacking up with a higher low, higher low, higher low. And then finally one day it will pop up. And it's all about the relative position. It's not about targeting any one particular price. I don't see us as ever going below 7,500. It is hypothetically possible. Um, if this market gets absolutely trashed, maybe we could even, test these lows around 5,000. But I would hope that we would bounce anywhere between here to 7,500. And personally, just if you asked me personally, I'm really thinking that 14,000 may end up being a market compromise. 11,000 would be a really good bounce point. And so if you, are able to buy in those areas, you know, we can talk about it more later. We're not even close to being there. But should there be some type of capitulation event this week, just understand that we do have a lot of potential levels to be thinking about. And if I go ahead and put on the DCA zones, ooh, any one of these is perhaps game for some type of little bounce or for a little bit of a play in terms of trading until we see some type of macro accumulation pattern. Okay, guys, I think I'm getting into macro now when really what I just wanted to be talking about was the daily setup and what this week might look like. Of course, we can consider our overall context in Bitcoin, which is that we are starting to get to those really, really juicy levels where you can perhaps make life-changing money. But of course, it could take a considerable amount of time to recover, and there's no guarantee that we would ever reach our previous all-time highs with this kind of double top being put on a tech market. Sometimes it could take a decade to repair fully, but if you think that the world economy can sort itself out and that some bullishness can come back to the world economy um, within the next couple years, then perhaps we could see just some amazing run at any time. But until then, I'm really thinking any bounce is going to be just a lower high, and then we're going to have an accumulation, which might even just get us into like some type of mid-range bounce, sort of like we did here in 2019. We didn't bounce to our previous all-time high. We just bounced and then we went down and sideways again, right? So something very similar where perhaps we put an accumulation pattern somewhere, could be here, could be lower, and then we get some type of mid-range bounce and then sideways for, another year or half year. But still very tradable. That was your alpha for the day. Stay safe and happy trading.